German Holocaust occurred from 1933 to 1945, during the Second World War. It was a genocide led by Adolf Hitler of those thought of as lesser. Kramer reviewed Pierre James's The Murderous Paradise. In this review, Kramer states that James argues the origin of the Nazi worldview is rooted in the Book of Revelations, causing a struggle between Christendom and Jewry. At the start of the German Holocaust, a new ideology was taking hold in Germany. This ideology was social Darwinism. Haug states that the pseudoscience of social Darwinism served as the philosophical justification of eugenic cleansing of Jewish populations across Germany. Social Darwinism was used in the late 19th and early 20th centuries to justify racism in order to prevent intervention and reform. Due to this ideology, pre-Holocaust German Protestant theology was deeply embedded in German cultural ethnocentrism. According to Haas, the Nazis' cornerstone concept of racial hygiene gave birth to their policy of racial cleansing that led to the murders of millions. Those joining the Nazi Party came from all different occupations. As this party was starting to form, a large portion of German physicians were early joiners. These doctors joined no matter previous interaction with Jews. Some had been most likely trained by at least some Jewish physician mentors, and worked alongside at least some Jewish physicians as colleagues. With the doctors in the party and utilizing social Darwinism, Nazism explicitly framed its methods and aims in biological terms. Davies states that this ideology caused the new regime to impose its Aryan laws almost immediately following its rise to power. Racial dreams could now be animated as political reality, and the German Christians lost no time in calling for Aryanization in the church as well as in the state. It is more important that a theological student should know something about eugenics, heredity, and science than that he should have his head stuffed with the names and dates of Jewish kings. According to Haas, they extended this mindset to a variety of unworthy groups, leading to the physician-administered racial Nuremberg laws, the sterilization laws, the secret sterilization of Afro-Germans, and the German euthanasia program. This culminated in the extermination camps. Solving the Jewish question thus became a project of international concern, according to Kipp. In the eyes of this writer, the killing of men, women, and children is a legitimate act of self-defense, because the Jews were considered to have been the ones who allegedly started the killings. Kipp goes on to say that the Jews died without making any sound. After this human tragedy, which is unfortunate but a necessary measure to discourage the uprising insurgents, we experienced over the following days a large section of the looters simply left their stolen goods on the street. The researcher Tyas found information from the perspective of German prisoners of war. He found that knowledge of the wholesale slaughter of Russians and Jews was fairly widespread. Less well known, the report continued, were the details of what went on in concentration camps. Nonetheless, the author wrote, the fact of the existence of the camps and the fact that the treatments there were undoubtedly common knowledge. Soon after the conclusion of the war, many German communists clearly recognized that the Jews had suffered a particular injustice at the hands of the Nazis, and had been used as scapegoats for the negative side of capitalism. Writing in 1948 in Neues Deutschland, the East German Communist Party newspaper, Paul Merker summarized, in reality, however, Nazi racial hatred did not spring up from irrationality, but rather from cold contemplation. The step-by-step increase in terror up to mass murder as a part of the realization of special political goals proved this. Other Marxist theoreticians went further, almost blaming the Jews for their fate and drawing upon traditional German stereotypes of the Jew. Brenner examines the life of the Jews after the German Holocaust. He found that between 1945 and 1948, 250,000 Jews lived in the American-occupied zone of Germany, often in places which had never before seen Jewish settlement. He goes on to find that even after liberation, the survivors felt left alone, and Mantowitz provides us with bitter complaints that many weeks after the end of the war, the Sheretha Haplitha, the surviving remnants, still felt abandoned by the international Jewish and non-Jewish organizations. Rosenthal reviewed the book Remembering the Holocaust in Germany, which was a compilation of 10 articles. One article by Dinner shows that how the Holocaust can be narrated differently from 4 separate perspectives: the history of anti-Semitism, ethnic cleansing, racial warfare, and euthanasia. The first of these perspectives explains the why question, why the Jews were selected by the Nazis as their chief victims. The latter 3 perspectives explain the how question, how the murderous means applied to the Jews in the Holocaust came into existence. According to Dinner, It is the intersection of a hated group, the Jews, with three new innovative methods of human destruction, all rooted in the traumas of the First World War, that produced a singular human catastrophe. The theory of Fanon can frame this violent event very well. Nationalism is his main focus in his theory. The Germans were very nationalistic, feeling that they were the better of the groups and that the Jews were the lesser. If the Germans and their leaders had not felt that the Aryans were the superior race, they would not have confronted the Jews in this event. Before the beginning of social Darwinism, the Jews and the Germans had gotten along well. This goes along with Tilly's theory. He states that activation of boundaries often promote damaging interaction where social relations previously went on in a generally peaceful fashion. The German Holocaust is a very important moment in history to examine. It teaches us that new ideologies can change the viewpoint of the world that we already know. One example of this would be the German doctors who joined the Nazi Party early in the war, even after having worked very closely with German Jewish physicians beforehand. The Holocaust also teaches us how ethnocentrism can affect the whole world. Grossman found that, in many ways, it seems the Holocaust is much closer to us in memory and consciousness now, so many decades later, than it was when our parents carried its fresh scars and we were all about changing the world, heedless of their anxious memories and associations. He concludes saying, "For Jewish voices, the shadows of the Holocaust hovered but only indirectly."